Hey there, House here. So last week was an interesting one to say the least. There were more than a handful of games that were upsets in my mind that I clearly did not see coming. I went 7 and 7, bringing my overall record to 81, 68 and 1 and keeping my win percentage at 54%. It's better than going down, I guess. Let's roll right into week 11, shall we? First up, tonight we have the Packers versus the Titans. Now, the Packers found a way to win last week when I really thought they had no chance against the Cowboys. They found a passing attack in the rookie receiver Christian Watson. They had a run game going all game. And all they're really doing at this point is just instilling some false hope in me to make me think that they'll actually win tonight against the Titans. If they are going to pull off a win here, it'll be against a really bad passing defense in the Titans, as well as our run defense needs to show up against Derrick Henry. But I guess we're not really going to know what's going to happen until the game gets going. Either way, I'm picking the Packers. I'm hoping I'm not wrong. We'll see. Next up, we have the Falcons versus the Bears. Now, the Bears have been rolling pretty well on offense over the last few games, and I saw an interesting stat that they are the first team in NFL history to score 29 or more points in 3 straight games and lose all of those games. Now, I think that'll finally get broken this week. I think they are going to put up 30 points or close to it against this really bad Falcons team, and I think they're going to win the game. I'm picking the Bears. Colts versus the Eagles. The Eagles have looked pretty bad for a few weeks now, and they ended up losing last week, eliminating their perfect season hopes. This week, they have a Colts team that have a pretty good offense, and Jonathan Taylor, who got himself going again, who now shows to be completely healthy for the moment, going against this Eagles defense that has issues tackling. I still think the Eagles are going to pull it out and win because the Colts offense is just too inconsistent. I just think it's going to be a lot tighter of a game than other people are thinking. I'm going Eagles. Patriots versus the Jets. Now, these two teams, obviously division rivals, they go against each other twice a year, and usually they're pretty tight contests. I did notice a pretty ridiculous stat, though. Since 2011, the Patriots have won 20 out of the last 23 games. Now, granted, a lot of those games were when Tom Brady was a quarterback, but they still won the handful of games with Mac Jones. This matchup, however, I'm predicting something a little bit different. The Jets have been playing a lot better football lately. 2 weeks ago, before their bye week, they played well against the Bills and beat them in an upset. I'm picking the Jets in this one. Next, we have the Texans versus the Commanders. I like the Commanders here. They're playing well right now. The rushing defense played surprisingly well against the Eagles, and that's what they're going to have to do against this Texans team because they're not going to beat you downfield. They're going to pound the ball and try to beat you that way. If the Commanders can stop the run, they're going to win this game. Saints versus the Rams. This is just a matchup between two ugly teams. Matthew Stafford, who missed last week's game due to a concussion, has been practicing, and he is expected to be removed from the protocol and play this week. It doesn't really help their chances because they lost Cooper Kupp last week due to a high ankle sprain, and I believe last I heard he's receiving surgery. He's going to be out for the next 3 or 4 weeks at least. The Saints have been really bad. Kamara is probably one of the more inconsistent running backs out there, but it's tough when you've got either Jameis Winston earlier in the season or Andy Dalton with his inconsistent play. All they're going to do is stack up the box and make it difficult to run the ball. It's not going to be pretty. I don't like this game. I'm picking the Saints. Bills versus the Browns. This game was originally supposed to be played in Buffalo, but due to the call of having between 3 to 6 feet of snow on Sunday for this game, they opted earlier today to move it to Detroit in the Dome, so there won't be any kind of weather issues. Some old school football fans might have some kind of issues with that. It's like, no, inclement weather, you're supposed to play in the cold and the snow. Granted, maybe not 6 feet of snow, but I digress. Either way, I like the Bills here. They've lost the last couple of weeks just due to some poor play and bad finishes. They get out to big early leads, and then instead of putting the teams away, they just get them creep right back in and lose it at the end. It'll be tough against this Browns team that likes to run the ball, but even their rushing offense hasn't been that great lately, and the Bills' defense is still pretty commanding. I like the Bills here. All right, Ravens versus the Panthers. Baker Mayfield was announced a starter for this week, and his track record against the Ravens is not very good, so I'm picking the Ravens. Giants versus the Lions. Now, I know earlier in the year I made the comment that the Lions burned me too many times, so I'm going to pick against them no matter who they're going against, and over these last 2 weeks where I picked against them, they've won. So it's not really working out in my favor where they're concerned. I'm still going to keep with that trend. I'm going to pick against them. I'm picking the Giants, and I'm hoping the Lions falter once again. All right, we had the Broncos versus the Raiders. Another matchup between two really bad teams. The last we saw the Broncos, it was in London a couple weeks ago. They had the surprise win against the Jaguars, who are just playing some of their worst football. They go against this Raiders team that's somehow playing worse than them. And in this matchup, the Raiders have won the last 5. This is more or less of a toss-up for me. The Broncos still have a good defense, but they're pretty inept on offense. We'll just have to wait and see if Russell Wilson will actually show up a little bit more than he has been to help his team win and maybe have an outside shot for a playoff push. I'm picking the Broncos in this one. Vikings versus the Cowboys. I, more than anyone, have been against the Vikings, partially because they're an NFC opponent, partially because they are a 9-1 team. 8-1 or 9-1, where I thought they didn't deserve to have that kind of record based on some of the games they were winning. Well, they kind of shut me up last week with a come-from-behind comeback win against the Bills. They forced a goal line fumble by Allen and got their defensive touchdown. Gave up a field goal with 30 seconds to go as the Bills forced overtime, but then the Vikings showed up and they put the game away. They've been playing good football. They're a tough team, and the Cowboys just looked pretty terrible against a bad Packers offense last week. So I'm picking the Vikings here. Steelers versus the Bengals. Bengals are still not strong offensively. The run game is suspect, and they're still without Jamar Chase. So that's going to hurt any kind of stock that Burrow has right now in this game. The Steelers on offense are still going with the rookie Pickett, and he hasn't really developed as quickly as I'm sure they were maybe hoping, but it's also his first year, so maybe that he's developing just as quickly as they want him to. Who's to say? Either way, I don't like them in this game, even though T.J. Watt did come back from injury last week. I don't think he's going to be enough against this Bengals team. I'm picking the Bengals. All right, Sunday Night Football, we have the Chargers versus the Chiefs. This one should be another, I like to think it's a tight matchup because these teams usually play pretty well against each other. The Chargers did have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams return to practice earlier this week. Still not quite sure if they're going to be available for this game, but them practicing at least means that they're going to come back sooner rather than later, which will definitely help out Justin Herbert. The Chiefs might be without their current leading receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, who left last week due to a concussion, but their trade acquisition, Kadarius Toney, had his first NFL touchdown last week, so maybe he takes on a bigger role in that offense. I like the Chiefs in this one. Might be a little bit more lopsided if the Chargers don't have Mike Williams or Keenan Allen. All right, we're on to Monday night. It's the Cardinals versus the Niners. The Cardinals won last week in the battle of the backups against the Rams when it was Colt McCoy against Wolford. It's too soon to tell if Kyler Murray will be available for this game. If he is not available, they will lean back on Colt McCoy, but the downside is they're not going against a backup quarterback. They're going against Jimmy Garoppolo, a proven veteran starter, and a really good defense, and I don't think the Cardinals are going to have enough if Kyler Murray doesn't play. I like the Niners here. Well, there you have it. Those are my picks. If there were some picks that I made that you disagree with, please leave your own in the comment section. Thank you for tuning in to the House Report. And lastly, for all my betting friends out there, remember, you win some and you lose some, but the house always wins.